now. My next guest is a longtime friend and a legend in the music industry. If the name Carmine Appice does not roll off your tongue right away, let me just give you a little background. So Carmine has been around for a very long time, and started out in a band called Vanilla Fudge, and Vanilla Fudge then morphed into a band called Cactus. We're going to be talking about this record. That's why Carmine is on. After that, Beck, Bogart, and Appice, which is why you may know the name. The bass player for Vanilla Fudge, Tim Bogart, and Carmine basically were a force to be reckoned with. They were one of the greatest drum-based combos in the history of rock. I can say that because I saw them all and I know them all. So whether you want to talk about Keith Moon and John Entwistle, whether you want to talk about John Bonham and John Paul Jones, or Ringo and Paul, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, you put Carmine and Tim in that. And if they weren't that great, Jeff Beck wouldn't have asked them to join his band. So therefore, I don't even have to even get too hyperbolic about it. That says just about everything you need to know. Then, of course, Carmine went on to be with Rod Stewart, wrote a song, a minor hit called "Do You Think I'm Sexy," and has a long legacy in this business, and started out basically in a bar in Long Island, like Twisted Sister did. And we had the same guys involved with us, like Phil Basile, who was, I think, an early manager. So we're going to talk about all of this. So let me just say, Carmine, welcome to the show.
Wow, you could tell your age because it's Appice. When I joined Rod Stewart, we changed it to Appice, and because everybody was like, "Oh man, what is it? Appice, 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 Appice."
So should it be Carmine Appice and that's it? And
yeah,
leave it
well,
alone?
since 1976, I've been saying Carmine Appice, but then my brother came out with Sabbath and said Vinny Appice, confused everybody. So everybody's still confused. But
well, whether it's Appice or Appice, it's the same guy.
Same guy.
Same guy. So let's go back. Let's go back to Vanilla Fudge days, just to start. So I'm 72, and 1967 rolls around, and Vanilla Fudge comes out, and they, this is when the album became the source of music, not the single. This was the album, and this is a very important point I'm about to make, because Vanilla Fudge took advantage of the concept of longer form music in the form of How You Did You Keep Me Hanging On, in a way that did not exist prior. So in the same way that Iron Butterfly had an Inagata-Davida, which was 23 minutes long, you guys had these long emotional pieces, Eleanor Rigby among them, in which you were labeled psychedelic, for lack of a better way for media to describe these things. But you were at the absolute foreground and cutting edge of that. Did you guys know when you recorded You Keep Me Hanging On the way you did, that this was part of something that was brand new? How did that exactly evolve?
Well, we kind of did, because it started at the Action House that was owned by Phil Basile, who was our manager. And in that club, the Vagrants, that had Leslie West in it, were huge. I mean, they would draw 2,000 people a night on a weekend. And when Mark Stein and Tim Bogart asked me to join their band, I was playing in the club, in the Choo Choo Club that Rascals played in with my band. And I didn't know whether I was going to do it or not. So I went over to them and they showed me what they wanted to do. I never played with a bass player. When I played with Tim Bogart, I said, "Oh my God, this guy's unbelievable." And the voices are great. Mark Stein's a great keyboard player. Vinny was a really good guitar player, but everyone sang great. And then I went there on the weekend to see the Vagrants, and they were called production numbers. Everything was slowed down and extended, right? I think what we did differently was we tried to gel the music with the lyrics. Like, you keep hanging on. It was a "Set me free, why don't you, babe?" It was really almost a happy song, but the lyrics weren't happy. So we brought it down, put the emotion and the soul into it. Eleanor Rigby, it was all about a cemetery and eerie. So we made it sound eerie. People get ready, gospel, so we did that pretty much to all those songs on the first album. And we knew we had something, because whenever we played live, whenever we played You Keep Me Hanging On, because of what we put into it, like the Ed Sullivan Show in '68, it's animation, we were very animated. I was viciously attacking drums, Mark Stein singing his butt off, his arms flinging in the air, and Vinny and Timmy bouncing around. Whenever we played that song in the club, people came up to the stage and watched us instead of tried to dance. You can't dance to our music anyway, but they tried, you know. But that song always brought people to the front, so we knew we had something. And we recorded it. It was a demo, you know, one take, one time, one take demo. And that's what took it all the way to where we are now.
So Phil took that demo to Atlantic or Atco. How did that
Well,
happen?
actually, we took it to Shadow Morton. Somebody knew Shadow Morton. I don't know how.
And by the way,
he cut it.
just to say this, among the great brill building writers slash producers slash legendary Long Island scene maker hit makers, Shadow Morton basically created the Shangri-Las for many of you who don't know his name necessarily, but he was a legend in the music industry and a legend on Long Island. So having said that, continue.
Yeah, so somehow he was involved. We did cut the record, and then he gave the record to like Murray the K and Scott Muni, who were just starting WOR, which is the first FM album-oriented radio. And then they had this contest, like a rate to record kind of thing. And we would go up against the Beach Boys and the Beatles and all these guys. And people would phone in and, you know, who they liked. We kept winning, right? We kept winning the contest. And after, I don't know, a couple of weeks of that, Atlantic wanted to sign us, you know, and that was it.
And who produced that first album?
Shadow.
Shadow produced the album.
Yeah, but really, all he did was get the sounds with the engineer, you know, and mix it. But really, you know, he was on an 8-track. So, you know, I don't know if you know about that when you recorded, but the 8-track would be, we put a track down, then they reduce it down to 2 tracks, you know, and then you put overdubs, and then they reduce it down again until you got all the 8 tracks filled up, and then you mix all those things together. So it wasn't like it is today, but you put things on the right, things on the left, so it was very clean, so you could hear everything. So that's what Shadow did, but he didn't do anything as far as the music, you know. He basically, gave us Take Me for a Little While. That's the song he gave us. We rearranged it, but all the other songs we were doing live, you know, for months. And so we just went in, it was like 1 take, 2 takes, and we did it, you know. And when we started actually recording the record, then we started doing it in stereo. So if you notice, the only thing on the record, it's in mono, Hanging On. It's always been mono. We re-recorded it a few years ago. That ended up on the last episode of The Sopranos. That was in stereo. So we recorded mono and stereo, re-recorded, but the original was mono. It was never stereo.
And at Atlantic, who was your A&R guy? Do you remember?
Jerry Wexler.
That was it.
I'm an Erdogan.
Those were the guys.
Yeah, those are the guys. That's why when they did that second album with the Fudge, it ruined our career. You know, The Beat Goes On. It was terrible, terrible album. A good idea, but should have been done, you know, 10 albums back down the line, not the second album. You know, that's why we lost all the momentum that, you know, when Hendrix and the Cream and everybody in those days, they all had big records. We were all like in the top 10, and they came out with their second album, the same as the first, and they went skyrocketed, and we went down that way. We had to rush in and do a third album quick. And because everybody was bitching at us that we don't write songs, even though we wrote all the music to everything, you know, all that music to Hanging On, the beginning of Hanging On, Illusions of My Childhood, we named it, you know, but we never took credit for it until lately. You know, all the songs we wrote the music for the intros, and we rewrote the melodies, you know, for everything. But so everybody was hassling us. So we went in and did the third album, which had Season of the Witch on it, which was one that should have been on the first album. We didn't have enough room. But we had other ones in the can we could have done, but we did this stupid album instead. So we rushed in to do the third album, Restrictions, which did okay, but it didn't do like the first album did. And then they re-released Hanging On as a single, a big single, went up to top 4. And then that brought all the albums back up. We had 3 albums and a single on the charts, but you know, when we did the Ed Sullivan Show in 1968, we were the very first band to ever do the Ed Sullivan Show without a smash single. We had a smash album. The album was #4 when we did the Ed Sullivan Show with no singles to back it. Hanging On
Yeah,
came out, but it went to #70, you know, but that wasn't good. Then they re-released it and it went to #4. Put the album
these,
back up.
yeah, this was the era of experimentation, the era
Totally.
of album music, the era of AOR record
Yeah.
radio stations. You're right. Most people
FM.
don't remember when WOR became WOR. I remember so well because they actually had posters in the subway. Murray the K had left
Yeah.
WINS. He left
Yeah.
WINS.
WINS, right?
Yeah,
And
and
Scott
he
Muni
switched
left
over.
WMCA.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
and in Easter week of 1967, when Murray was planning his departure, I went to the Murray the K Easter show at the RKO theater
Yeah.
on 60th Street
Yeah.
and saw 10 bands for $3,
Yeah.
and it was the Young Rascals headlined
Yeah.
because they had Groovin' was #1
Yeah.
that week. But you know, I got to see your future guitar player because I saw Mitch Ryder and the Detroit
Yeah.
Wheels
That's
go
right.
on, and
They
I
were
saw
awesome.
Jim McCarty.
Yeah.
And I saw Jim McCarty play. And I was like, you know, Cream and the Who opened the show.
Right.
Each band played 2
Unbelievable.
songs.
2
Yeah,
songs. Yeah.
2 songs each. Cream did NSU and I Feel Free. And Who did My Generation and I Can't Explain.
Right.
And, you know, no one had seen them before. I'd never seen them before. No one saw them before. In fact, nobody knew who they were. Murray the K apparently told Sid Bernstein, you got to help me out. I can't sell tickets. You got to give me the Young Rascals. They're the biggest band in the country right
In the
now.
country. Yeah.
And
That's
Gene
right.
Cornish said to me that Sid said to him, well, how much can you pay the band? And he goes, I have no money left, but I'll buy him lunch every day. I'm thinking that can only happen back in
Yeah.
1967.
Yeah. It wasn't a business yet, you know. I
No,
mean,
it was.
we never did that with the Fudge. You know, we always played with somebody else. Like we played the Village Theater. We had just changed our name from the Pigeons to Vanilla Fudge, and we played with the Birds and the Seeds. It would have been the Birds, the Seeds, and the Pigeons. Totally for the birds. So, you know.
Can I
But
ask you a
we,
question? Was that the theater that was next to the Cafe Wa, the Village
no,
Theater?
it's a theater that
Where
became
was
the
it?
Fillmore.
Oh, that became the Fillmore. So the Village
Yes,
Theater became the Fillmore
Fillmore.
East
The Fillmore
ultimately.
East.
So you played that. Tell me, what was your greatest memory of the best show that the Fudge did back in those days? Do you have one?
Nah, there were so many. I mean, the Ed Sullivan Show sticks out because
Sure.
it's still living today, you know, but there was so many. I mean, the festivals, you know, all that stuff just started with us, you know, and taking Led Zeppelin, opening up for us, you know, and it's just so much was going on. All the pioneering was going on, you know. So I couldn't say one. Shows with Hendrix that we blew him off the stage sometimes, you know. The show with the Who in England that we blew off the stage in their own turf. You know, they were just unbelievable shows, and we were always saying, "Who's going to blow us off?"
Right.
And proudly to say it was Led Zeppelin. You know, they were amazing.
Yeah, you know, where you and I crossed paths a couple of years apart, but in terms of experience, was the Action House / Speaks / Phil Basile.
Right.
Until we played Speaks gave us the feeling that we actually had arrived. You know, up
Yes.
until then,
Yeah.
we'd played the smaller clubs in Long Island and
Yeah.
done
It
well.
was a big
But
club.
but the Action House, for people who don't understand the importance of the Action House at the time, every band that played the Fillmore East, that played Long Island, played the Action House. So if it was Zeppelin, Hendrix, Jay Giles, Black, doesn't matter who, everybody played the
Yeah.
Action House. So my memories of the Action House / Speaks are very dear to me. Are they dear to
Right.
you in a way?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I remember recording Cactus live there. We still have the tape somewhere. And yeah, just it was amazing when I saw the Vagrants there. I played with the Vagrants a couple of years before that in the city at a place called the Blue Bunny Club. I had a band with horns, and we wore pinstripe suits and played R&B. And this band comes on. You know, you always had 2 bands a night. And they came on. And they looked scrubby, and they were called the Vagrants. They looked like Vagrants to me. You know, long hair and like Rolling Stones kind of look. You know. And Leslie West was in it. And I met them. We played for a week together. I met the drummer Roger, and I still speak to him. He's Roger is a pastor in Haiti. Crazy enough,
He's alive. He's alive.
I saw Larry West, Leslie's brother, who was in the Vagrants, 3 weeks ago when I played with Florida with Cactus. Now he's 75, and he looks like a 75. But and then I started hearing about this group when I joined the Pigeons. They said, we got to see this group, the Vagrants. So I go, I'm thinking to myself, you kidding me? That band that I play with, they're great. So I went to see them. They were great. They changed everything, and the place was packed, 2,000 people, and my manager, they paid us $100 a week, whether we played or not, just to rehearse and get better and play gigs and build it to get, so we could be like the Vagrants. Right. And
Was your band the first
and
band?
And then you had the Rich Kids.
Did Phil, was you the first band that Phil managed? The Fudge?
Yeah. Yeah.
You guys were.
And I played there. It was called the Shell House. I played there for 4 weekends. 2 weekends it was the Shell House, and then they changed managers. It was Phil and his people. Chubby, remember Chubby?
Larry Tortorisi, Chubby, Uncle Ralph Greco.
All those guys. So I'm playing with the band. I had to go get paid. I knock on the door. It's like, hey, who is it? I said, it's the band. I want to get paid. And it was Chubby answered the door. And I look at him, and Phil comes out with a scar on his face. I said, oh my God, the mafia took over this place. And they paid me. They were good. So when I went with the Pigeons to join up with them, and I met Phil and Chubby, I said, man, I played here like 6 months ago, and you took it over. But in that time, they built it into a big success, and they were great.
Yeah.
Great people.
One time, Larry Tortorisi took me in the office at Breakout Management one day.
Yeah.
And he pulls out all these diaries of the
Across the street.
Across the street. Yeah, across the street off Austin Boulevard. And Larry pulls out the whole stack. He goes, JJ, let me show you who used to play here. I said, I know he played. He goes, let me show you the pay stubs. And I see Fleetwood Mac, $400, Led Zeppelin, $600, like crazy shit, like really crazy stuff. I said, man, those were the days. Those were the days.
Led Zeppelin, right? The first date they opened up, the agent didn't want them on the show. It was Vanilla Fudge and Spirit. We were sold out in Denver. Says, come on, Barry Fay. You probably know Barry Fay.
Sure, we had Barry as our promoter then.
Yeah. He promoted everybody. So it's arguing, come on, put Led Zeppelin, Jimmy Page's band, blah, blah, blah. Fudge loved Jimmy. But no, we don't need him. He said, I'll tell you what, it's $1,500 for Led Zeppelin. You pay half, and Vanilla Fudge will pay half. Now, we didn't do the business. Phil and those guys did all the business. So we paid half of the money for Led Zeppelin to play with us. How about that?
And that was the first time you saw it.
They never paid it back.
They never returned it.
No.
People, again, I'm going to mention names that many people don't know, because this is the era of Grand Funk Railroad. It's the era of Blue Cheer. It's the era of Black Oak, Arkansas. It's the era of Dust and Sir Lord Baltimore. Talk about names from the past. All you guys set the ground. You guys set the ground rules for heavy music. Up until then, it was converted hard pop music, but it wasn't heavy. You guys began the entire heavy movement. Did you see Blue Cheer back in the day when they were playing through all those answers? What did you think of that?
That's the name I've been thinking about. I couldn't remember who it was. I think they were the first heavy metal band.
They were. 6 Marshall stacks.
Stacks of amps like nobody knew, or heavy hard rock band that would call. Because we're discussing, like, where does heavy metal thing start? For me, I think it started with Metallica and the buzz sound on the guitars. Like you guys and King Cobra and Blue Murder and Ozzy and all that, they weren't heavy metal. They were hard rock. They were hard rock with a heavy edge. For me, it started with Metallica and onward. That was the really heavy metal to me, because they were talking about, well, you were a first heavy metal drummer. I said, I don't consider myself a metal drummer. I consider myself a heavy rock drummer.
Yeah, but without you guys, it wouldn't have been the evolution.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean,
you guys laid the foundation of what that whole thing was about. And that's why a band like Blue Cheer Let me try to explain this to my listeners. The drummer of Blue Cheer played through 3 Marshall stacks. He had his own Marshall amplifiers. Forget about the fact that he was going through the PA system. The dude was playing through Marshalls, and I think they had to record their album in the middle of San Francisco Bay because they were so loud, or so the story.
Well, I think, I don't know if they came after us, but I had, when we played with Hendrix in 68, 30 shows, Vanilla Fudge, I had my own dual Showman amplifier. I had one on each side. There was voice of the theater. That was the PA. I mean, it was so stupid. The board wasn't a board. It was just a bunch of knobs on the side of the stage. So the guy would go out, and while the show was going and sound check, he'd listen and run back there and turn a knob, you know. And so I had my own amplifiers. So did Mark Stein. He had a dual Showman for the organ. There's really no PA systems back then. You know, they weren't. That's why I started playing harder and harder, because, you know, there's no amps, and everybody's got these stacks of amplifiers, and there's no PAs, and I'm just beating the shit out of my drums, you know. So I said, you know, I want to get an amplifier. So I got a little Shure mixer with 5 inputs, and I put 5 Shure 57s all over my drum set. Plugged them into this dual Showman amp with 2 tops, 2 bottoms, ran the wires. They sat right next to the PA, the 4 voice of the theaters on each side. I don't know if you know what those are.
Of course we do.
Yeah,
We had them
okay.
at one point.
Yeah, it was way before you guys.
Yeah,
So
no, but trust me. Listen, did you ever see the Beatles play Shea Stadium?
Oh my God.
Voice of the theaters
Not
on
even.
tables, on
not
tables.
Even, not even. They had columns.
You
They
know.
had
Anyway,
columns
yes.
going all around. But anyway, so I put them in the front, and I used them. And then Mitch used to come out and say, "Carm, do you mind if I use your drum amps?" I said, "No, you could use them." So he'd bring his drums. They mic his drums with my drum amps. But there are no PA, no monitors. I don't know how we even sung Vanilla Fudge, all those harmonies, without any monitors. And they sound good. Jimi Hendrix,
well,
no monitors.
Yeah, Jack Bruce told me once when I asked him, how the hell did he hear himself sing at Madison Square Garden? Because when Cream played the Garden, the PA system was the public address system they used for hockey games on the ceiling. And he said, worse than that, I had no monitors. So not only did I not have monitors, but the PA system was 50 feet over my head. And I'm thinking to myself, this is how rudimentary, this is how early.
It wasn't a business yet. I mean, we got a guy, Tony Franks. You remember that name?
Sure, from Marshall Cork.
He left, I think, and he built his own PA system. And we had the first one with Cactus. And we used to carry that around. At the time, back then, we used to fill the truck up with the equipment and back it right up to the belly of the plane and empty it into the plane. And on the other end, another truck would pick it up from the promoter. It was crazy. There was no security. Rusty Day used to carry drugs, knives, guns, everything on planes.
There was a famous story that Pink Floyd's 2 drivers fell asleep at their truck parked in front of the Fillmore East after a gig. You know, this is back in like 69, something like that. And they woke up on the street. They were so high. They were taken off the truck. The truck was stolen.
Oh, really?
All their gear was stolen.
I never heard that. Wow.
The 2 guys were on the street, or so the story goes. Listen, there were so many stories. By the way, did you ever play Unganos or Steve Paul's Scene?
Yes. Played Unganos with the Fudge. That's where we finished the arrangement of You Keep Me Hanging On.
People do not understand. Again, it was a small Italian restaurant on the Upper West Side that had some of the greatest acts in history.
Everybody played there.
Everyone played there.
I remember I went to see Tony Williams' Lifetime there, and Keith Moon was there, pulled his pants down, just walked across in front of the stage. And you know what? We have Leslie Gold, my wife, the radio chick. We have an apartment on the same street, the next block over, where Unganos was. And now it's back to being an Italian restaurant.
Yeah. The 210 West 70th Street. You know the crazy story, the crazy irony of that, Carmine? The owner of my apartment building in Manhattan owned 210 West 70th Street.
Where do you live?
Then I live on the Upper West Side. I live where we had lunch near my place on the Upper West Side in the 90s.
Right. Yeah,
And
but we're on 70th and Broadway.
yeah, 70th and Broadway, and Ungano's was right there. And I used to
Yeah.
get, listen, I walked in Ungano's one day. Nicky Ungano was there. You know, I was like, he knew me because I'd been in and out a long time. And he goes, well, it's sold out. It's Muddy Waters. I said, I got to get in. You got to let me in. So he lets me in. There's no seats. I can't sit down. He says to me, go on stage and sit on Muddy's amplifier. I went on stage
Oh my
and
God.
sat on Muddy Waters' freaking Fender amp. And let me tell you something. It was hot as a motherfucker, but I was
Oh, I'm
sitting on
sure.
Muddy Waters' amplifier, man. You know,
Yeah,
these
it's
are things
crazy
that
days. Those days were great because they weren't really business yet, you know. Now, forget about it. You know, it's like you can't even, like Rod played down here in Florida, and I said, well, why don't I come up and jam hot legs? He goes, you can't because everything's in ears. There's no amps on the stage. You know, you don't have in ears. You know, blah blah blah. I said, forget about it. You know, but then I used to play because we lived in 70th and Broadway. Every New Year's Eve, Government Mule would play there. You know, at the Beacon. So every 30th, I would, for like 6, 7 years, I would go there that night and go up and play with them one song of my song, either Hot Legs or Superstition or Hanging On or Parchment Farm or Evil or something. And it was great.
well, this is a perfect segue then to talk about the Cactus album you just
Yeah.
did, the tribute record, because you mentioned Government Mule, so it's Warren Haynes. I mentioned Jim McCarty. So let's talk about the evolution of going from Vanilla Fudge into Cactus, which I think Cactus really became the exquisite example of what a heavy band should be. Because unlike Fudge, where you kind of were feeling itself along,
Yeah.
Cactus really crystallized a certain sound. So talk to me about that.
It did. You know, one of the first gigs we did was with Hendrix, you know, and it was going to be Jeff Beck and Rod Stewart and Cactus, but Rod didn't want to work with Jeff. And then we ended up getting, being me, Jeff, and Tim. We'll figure out the singing later. And then Jeff got in a car wreck, and that was the end of that. So then we got McCarty because we thought McCarty was like the Jeff Beck of America.
So wait, let's just understand this. The idea of Beck, Bogart, and Appice was actually thought of prior to the construction of Cactus.
Yeah, but it was thought of as the name Cactus with Rod Stewart.
Okay.
Because I saw the name in Arizona in the drive-in theater, and it was called Cactus Drive-In. On top, it's a giant letters Cactus. I said to Tim, "Wow, what a great name for a band!" You know. So then we thought about that, and we said, "Let's call it Cactus with Jeff Beck and Rod." And Jeff was okay with it. And then Rod didn't want to work with him, so then Jeff got in the car wreck. So we had broken up Vanilla Fudge. We had we blew out a Japanese tour, a European tour, which paid pretty well. We said, "No, we want to do this." The guitar was coming up, and supergroups were happening, Blind Faith and Crosby, Stills and Nash. So we figured the thing with Jeff would work with. So we broke it up already. So we said, well, let's get McCarty. So McCarty came to Breakout across the street. We jammed in the back. It was great. We need a singer. He said, why don't we get Rusty Day from Nugent's band? You know, okay. So we brought Rusty in, started jamming. It was great. Every time we jam, he'd sing. Matter of fact, when we did Parchment Farm, we wanted that song to be faster than I'm Coming Home by 10 years after. That was the inspiration for that. And it was the first inspiration for me to play double bass drum that fast, because nobody played double bass drum that fast in the groove, you know. So
did you know McCarty from the Mitch Ryder gigs? Is that how you met him?
no, I met him through the Buddy Miles gigs.
Okay.
I played with Buddy Miles, but we loved him in the Mitch Ryder gigs. And what he did in Jenny Take a Ride, I mean, you know, it was like Jeff Beck. You know, back then, that's how Jeff Beck played.
That was shredding in those days.
That was shredding.
That was shredding.
So anyway, so we got him, we got Rusty, and we did Parchment Farm. I thought it was an original song. I didn't know it was a Mose Allison song, you know, Allison, and because he would just jam lyrics with us that ended up being the song, you know, because he was great at that. But it wasn't about the song Parchment Farm. It was about what was going on in the song, the freight train kind of attacking that groove. Everybody was just on fire and fury on that groove, you know. It could have been any lyric, but Rusty chose to sing that, so it became his song. But I didn't know that I wasn't a blues guy. I was R&B. I was big band, jazz, R&B. I was never sat down and listened to Muddy Waters, you know. But anyway, so that was it, and it started happening, and
You guys weren't aware of the Blue Cheer version of Parchment Farm either. Am I
no,
correct?
no,
You
never
didn't,
heard it.
because I became
I
aware of the
still never
song.
heard it. I still
I
never
became
heard
aware of the song through John Mayall's Blues Breakers album,
it. Yeah,
then the Mose Allison version, then the Blue Cheer version, and then your version was the entire redesign of
yeah,
a concept
so,
of a song.
yeah, and only because we were playing that thing and Rusty sang it. We didn't say, "Hey, let's do Parchment Farm and do it like this." It didn't happen like that. We had the groove going, but I don't, and then Rusty just happened to sing, "Sitting over here in the Parchment Farm," Okay. Then we did another break and he sang another thing, but it was just animalistic, that song. Matter of fact, when I did Joe Bonamassa's podcast recently, he said that song blew my brains out. A lot of people said that, so that's when I asked him, I told him about the new album. I said, well, I want you to play on it. He said, no problem. So
Yeah,
it
so
was,
Jim
it
was
was
on the
amazing.
track. It's the lead off track on the album.
Yeah,
And Jim is on it as well.
Jim McCarty.
Jim McCarty's on it as well. How did
Yeah.
that discussion go? Did he say, great, bring Joe on? What did
No, it was just this whole album just was a progression. It sort of had a life of its own. Like it started with Cleopatra owner Brian Pereira. I don't know if you know Brian.
Yeah.
Well, he came to me because they did a bunch of different Cactus stuff that did okay on the label. So he said, I would love to do an album of people who were influenced by Cactus. He said, you think you can do it? I said, I can do it. So I did that Guitars record. I had all these great guitar players on in the 90s. And still living that album too. So I said, I can do that. So I said, look, we need a budget. So he gave me a budget. And I started thinking about it. And you know what? You being a musician, you get this. I recorded it in my studio, drums first, nothing else. Parchment Farm, I did that track in my head, singing it to myself with a click, playing it, singing it, playing it. And then I put the bass, the guitar player who sings it, plays guitar and harmonica on him next, the bass player on it. Now I had a song, right? So when Joe Bonamassa said he'd play on it, he said, I'll do the solos. I said, all right. So I called McCarty. I said, look, I'm going to do this. Billy Sheehan's going to play bass because he wanted to do anything to celebrate Tim, because Tim was his mentor. So I had Billy playing bass. I said to McCarty, I want you to play guitar, play the rhythm and the stuff, the fills and the verses, and Bonamassa will play the solo. And Jim said, you're going to get Bonamassa to play the solo. He loves Bonamassa. I said, yeah. He said, oh my God. So, okay. So little by little, the phone calls, and there wasn't one guy on this album that was in the same room together. You'd never know it.
Never know it.
Never
The
know
album,
it.
no, we're going to talk more about this record because it's a really, really, really good record. I got it. I played it and I thought to myself, man, you got the best performances out of everybody.
Yeah.
Track to track to track to track. And you know what? It's beyond the fact of whether you know who Cactus is or you don't know who Cactus is. You have to know that the musicians on this record, and I mean, it's a who's who of the greatest players, they respect it so much. They respect you so much. They respect the legacy so much that they wanted to be a part of it. Tell me about your relationship with Tim and ultimately
with Tim?
With Tim Bogart, ultimately, and how
He was like my brother. He was like my brother. Even when he was retired, he was still like my brother. We talked to each other all the time. And when he was sick, we were doing, did the Beck Bogan Appice live box set that came out recently. So we worked on that because, the night that was recorded, he punched Jeff in the face because he was sick. That was the end of the band. But we did 2 shows that night, and the one show they're using, Tim didn't sing his harmonies. So I asked him to come to LA. I said, I'll come to LA. We'll go to Jorgen Carlson, who plays bass with Government Mule. I said, let's go to his house. He's got a studio, a proper studio. We'll go in, we'll fix these vocals. So, and he's starting to get sick then, you know. And he came over, we did it, we hung out. Next time we had to do some work on Vanilla Fudge. We did Stop in the Name of Love, and we released it a couple of years ago before Tim died. And there was we were the only 60s band that had all 4 members that released something new. Right? And he came in, now he's getting sicker. And he had to replace some bass, and he had to replace some vocals. And it came out good. So I have a message on my phone from him when he was okay. He was still, hey, Carm, how you doing? It's Tim, you know, uppity. Then I got the last message of when he was really ill, because he was so ill that he didn't want to live anymore. He was so ill, you know. And but we were like brothers, you know. I mean, I went to the funeral. We had a celebration. I had his urn made. He was in the urn. I had Joe Calzone, you know, from Calzone and Anvil Case. They made a case for him, you know, with the front made of plastic with a plaque with his autograph, Tim Bogan in gold, you know. So he lives in an Anvil case. It's just like him, you know. He was like my brother, you know.
Mark Mendoza, our bass player, when I asked him who's his favorite bassist, Tim was always number 1.
Yep.
Jack Bruce was number 2.
Yep.
And John Entwistle maybe was number 3.
Those are the 3 guys. Just like the drummers in those days. It was me, Ginger Baker, Keith, and Mitch Mitchell. That was it.
That was it.
Dino was kind of in there, you know, but those are the guys that was the first level of drummers that really pioneered stuff. And then after that, 2-3 years later, was Bonzo and Ian Pace and all that stuff. And after that was Billy Cobham, you know, there was levels, you know, but that level was those bass players, the guitar players, Jeff, Eric, Jimmy Page.
Jimmy Page, you know, Hendrix, you know, that crew.
Those 4.
Yeah,
that set the precedent. We set the precedent for drums. We experimented. I pioneered so many things with Ludwig. You know, I was the first rock musician, not drummer, rock musician to do a clinic at Sam Ash in Hempstead, you know. But yeah, so anyway, so little by little, I started making calls. Once I had demos, I called your guy there, D.
Yeah. You
know, Joe Franco was a student of mine, you know, Joe. And I heard him sing Evil back in the day. So I called Joe and I said, you know, I'm doing this album. You think D will sing Evil? He goes, yeah, man, just call. He loves Cactus. So I called him. I said, I knew I was going to put D. Snyder on. I mean, Doug Pinnick on bass. McCarty wanted to play Evil. So I had Pinnick, me, and McCarty. So I called D and I told him, wasn't even a hesitation. I said, I'd love you to sing on. He goes, I'm in, like that.
Same he would do that.
Same thing with the video. I'm in.
Yeah, he did it. Even at some Twisted sound checks, him and Mark and Eddie would go into Evil. He loved that song.
Really? Then too,
oh,
man.
yeah, absolutely. Listen, when I text him, I this morning I said, yo, I have to tell you, man, you killed his vocal. Don't give me this bullshit. You can't do it anymore. You killed
it.
The freaking
and
vocal.
You know what's funny about that? McCarty, right? He said, who are you going to get to sing this? I said, D. Snyder from Twisted Sister. He goes, oh, come on, the guy from Twisted Sister? I said, yeah, the guy from Twisted Sister. Hold on a minute. I'm doing the interview now. I'll call you back, okay? All right. It's the guy from Twisted Sister. He goes, I said, dude, trust me, okay? So I did it. I sent him a rough mix. He goes, who's singing? I said, the guy from Twisted Sister. He goes, oh my God, he sounds like Rusty. I said, yeah, he does. I said, I told you. Just like I told him I'm going to market this album as a blues album to try and get on the Billboard charts. So I called him the other day and I said, hey, guess what? He goes, we broke in #3 at the blues charts. What do you think of that? He goes, you got to be kidding me, because he was fighting me. He goes, we're not blues. I said, dudes, we've always been blues rock. Don't tell me no. 145 changes. Blues, baby.
That's what all those bands were. Basically,
Foghat,
yes,
Robin Trower, they're all going to the the blues, being marketed as blues. That's why I told the guy from the owner, I said, we did that. We did the picture. I wanted to be like Sergeant Pepper
Yeah.
on the cover of everyone that played on the
You
record.
certainly did. You certainly did.
Okay. And then,
Yeah.
then Brian said, why don't we call it Temple of Blues if we're going to go after it, right? There it is. And he said, I said, yeah, let's call it Temple of Blues, Influences and Friends. He said, okay. So then we changed all the artwork to a temple stuff. And now you got blues in the title. So, you know, they got to look at us as a blues record. So, bam, number 3. I said, whoa, I didn't expect to go in number 3. I thought maybe 25, build up a little. But now that opens the doors to do another Cactus album. Cactus plays blues. Cactus plays, I don't know, Muddy Waters blues or somebody's blues. You know, we don't have to write the songs. We just play old blues songs and modernize them like we did with Evil. The Evil came from an album of Howlin' Wolf. Did you know that?
Yeah.
Howlin' Wolf Electric album. Jeff Beck gave it to me. Jimmy Page gave it to him. If you listen to that album, you could hear almost Led Zeppelin 1.
What was that? Electric Mud? That album
No,
that Muddy Waters
no,
did?
it's Howlin' Wolf. It's Howlin'
Which
Wolf.
one? I mean, sorry.
Howlin'
I
Wolf
was thinking Muddy
Electric
Waters. You're
album.
right. Howlin'
He
Wolf.
didn't like
Yes.
it at
Evil.
first,
Yes.
but he didn't like
Right.
his electric guitar either, something like that. And the sound of it was like Led Zeppelin 1. And I could hear it. And I heard Evil. I said, wow, the drum part, and this is so cool. I presented it to the band. They said, yeah, let's do it. So I did it. You know, there was little breaks in these things. I modernized the breaks into my style. But that groove, boom, boom, that was his groove. I just did it heavier and changed some of it. Guitar parts were the same. The vocal was similar. The bass parts was the same, but with Tim playing it, you know, he'd go off a lot. But it came out great with Cactus, and it ended up being, over the years, the most famous Cactus song, Evil.
Tell me about this. So what happened? What exactly happened to Cactus? Give me the timeline.
Well, originally, McCarty got fed up with Tim being a lead bass player. He wanted a bass player to just play the groove. Yeah, it wasn't Tim. So he left. All right. We had just done a tour with Rod Stewart and the Faces. So we said, okay, if he left, Atlantic always didn't, they never liked Rusty's voice. They said, get a different voice. So we got rid of Rusty, and we did the Faces tour, and we said, let's move more towards the Faces. So we got Dwayne Hitchings keyboard. We got this guy Werner Fritching that we found in a contest in Rochester, New York, and me and Tim. So we had a whole new Cactus band. It was more like the Faces, and we did okay with it. The Hot and Sweaty album came out. You know, it did okay. We went out, we drew people, and then we got a call from Jeff Beck. We wanted to, let's do it. So that was what me and Tim wanted to do also. So we left, at one point we were doing some Jeff Beck gigs and some Cactus gigs. Because Jeff Beck was in, I don't know, he had some dates off that we had Cactus gigs. That's just how it worked out. And then that was it. You know, once we started working with Jeff, then we gave Cactus to Dwayne Hitchings. And Dwayne worked with Mike Panera and a couple other guys. They got Cactus going for a couple of times, a couple of years. They did well. They made like $500,000 gross, 750,000 gross. Back then, that was good money, you know.
So
And,
from the time frames that you're discussing, as I inject my own experiences as to what I was seeing at the time, I saw Beck around July or August 72. He played Carnegie Hall. All right. And it was a gig that he did, I guess, after the accident, after the car accident that he was in.
yeah, but that was with the second group.
Yeah. So he
Not
played
with us.
he played Carnegie Hall. Your album, what, was recorded in the fall of 72? The Beck Bogart Appice album
It came out April of 73.
came out, right, April, because Twisted
So
Sister
we
started.
joined him about August. We played Randall's Island.
With Hendrix, or was that a different Randall's Island concert?
I
That
think it was
probably
a different one.
Yeah.
And he had this guy that looked like a
couldn't
go-go dancer singing. This guy, Kim Milford, came from Jesus Christ Superstar or some shit like that. And he was awful. So we fired him, got Bobby Tench back. So it was me, Tim, Bobby Tench, Max Middleton, and Jeff. So we did that tour, and It was just called the Jeff Beck Group. Then we did another tour in October. It was called the Jeff Beck Group featuring me, Tim, and Jeff. After that tour, we went into Chess Records. We did the album, and then I don't remember exactly the timing. I think it might have been like January, February. We went to Europe with Jeff, and that was called, no, I'm sorry, that was BBA that went finally. Yeah, so then I don't remember exactly the timing, but after the BBA record was done, then it came out in, I think it was April of '73. Hold on a minute. What?
I have to start recording.
Okay, shut the door.
I'll still hear you.
Okay, well, all right, we'll be done soon. As Leslie does podcasts too. This is a guest house we're in Florida. She's got the back room as the studio, and the rest is the studio and the gym, and kitchen, whatever, So anyway, so that's what I remember timing wise. And the BBA record came out because we went to Japan in May, and then we did a tour here in July, and then Jeff left the tour. It was a sold out tour, and he went home. It was typical Jeff at the time, and then kept going. We tried to record the second album, never happened. And we went to Europe in it was like October, November, and that's when I started listening to more of Mahavishnu Orchestra and Billy Cobham in the car with Jeff. Then when BBA broke up, I was in England for 3 months working on Blow by Blow. And I never got on it because of record company bullshit, and Phil Basile and his manager and Epic Records, blah, blah, blah. So I didn't get on it. I was kind of pissed off because, I did co-write some of the songs, which I kind of went away. And basically it came out and did 2 million albums. I was really pissed off. And I got to work with George Martin. And then he's touring. And then basically I realized recently, if I would have been touring with him, I never would have joined the Rod Stewart group, which a smaller percentage of Rod's group made more money than the bigger percentage of BBA. And with then I wrote Do You Think I'm Sexy, and we sold 50 million albums, not 2 million. I got like those 5 you have back there. I got those in New York, and it was like I realized recently if that timing, would have been wrong. I would have ended up with Jeff Beck on tour as a sideman. And Phil said to me, "You don't want to be a sideman to Jeff Beck. You just came out equal bill with him. Beck, Bogan, Appice, you were equal to him. Why do you want to play in the record and be sideman?" But I loved the music, but I didn't do it.
I'll tell you, this is an interesting sidebar to all of it. Twisted Sisters started, we changed our name February 14th as Valentine's Day, 1973. And the first grouping of songs that we did, because we were a cover band in those days, was Bowie, Lou Reed, Mott the Hoople. The second grouping of songs we learned to cover was directly connected to BBA because the singer went out and bought the album in April of '73, came up to the house. We were living in the house, played Superstition. Right. And we said, we have to learn that song. So Twisted actually played.
Oh, that's funny.
Superstition
like
back
Van
in
Van Halen's Eruption, right? Eruption was beginning of Let Me Swim. Did you know that?
No, I did not.
So on this album, I extended it. And I got Doug Aldrich to play the beginning. It goes, wow, bam, bam, bam. That's what we did. They were big Cactus fans, and Hot for Teacher was Parchment Farm.
Sure, Hot for Teacher is Parchment Farm, as a matter of fact.
So if you listen to Eruption, and then listen to the beginning of Swim on the Influencer Temple of Blues album, I extended it. You're going to find it very similar. But
did he ever tell you that Twisted Sister played the Cactus version of Long Tall Sally?
No, I didn't know that.
We did a rock and roll medley with Chuck Berry, Little Richard, a whole bunch of songs. And when we decided to do Long Tall Sally, Dio Mark goes, wait a minute. We're going to go from this furious pace, like the Parchment Farm pace, to all of a sudden, boom, da 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 da.
Oh, cool.
Da, da, and that became a staple of our act. And it was perfectly placed within the context of the rock and roll medley because it worked perfectly. 'cause you guys were incredible. Is there anything you want my fans to know about this record that we should point out specifically? Because I
Can we
want them
go on
to.
hold for a minute? Let me change positions because she's got to do her thing. I'm going to move somewhere in my house, okay?
All right, Matt.
I'll
just
carry you with me. I'll carry you
pause
with me.
for a second.
Yeah, pause for a
Yeah,
second.
no rush.
Should I do a spot for the commercial right now? Matt, what do you think?
Yeah, if you'd like, whatever works, or we can plug it in.
Yeah, let me do the DiMarzio one.
You can
Okay.
do that. It's going to be like 2 minutes.
Okay. Let me do that.
Sounds
Going
good.
through the garage
Okay.
into the house.
Are you ready, Matt?
Yep. Yeah, good.
Okay, here we go. I'd like to thank my sponsors, DiMarzio Pickups and the Tone Quest Report. DiMarzio Pickups are the pickups that I use. I've been using since 1976. They're being used by every
It's
major.
going to change.
Whoops.
Maybe
so we do that.
Maybe we could do it after.
I'll do it afterwards.
Audio will be cutting in and out.
All right, I'll do it afterwards. Fine.
Okay, how's that?
All right. Okay, are you settled in?
Oh, it looks like you must have lost service. He just dropped.
All right, let's wait a second.
Oh, he's coming back
Okay.
on. You
Yeah,
cut
we're
off for
good.
a second there, Carmine, but I think we've got you back.
Okay.
All right. So getting back to the new release, the Cactus tribute record. When is the official release of this album?
What's that?
When is the official release date of the album? Or is it out? It is out now. Correct.
I just lost you.
Do you want to re-ask that
I
question?
will. I'll
AJ?
re-ask it.
The
I'll re-ask it.
connection was just cutting in and out
Okay.
here.
All right.
Wait a second.
Are we, Carmine, you back?
Yeah, I don't know what happened to the, I'm going to reconnect. Hold on.
Okay.
I don't know why I lost the, I got the vocal, but not the video. There we go.
Okay. We back now?
Yeah, I'm back. Let me turn
Okay.
this light on so that I'm all right.
So we'll begin again.
Yeah, well, let me, come on, baby. All right, let's leave the light where it is. Fuck it.
Okay. We back?
Does that look okay?
Yeah.
Okay,
You're good.
let's go.
You good? Okay. We're here with my guest, Carmine Appice, who has produced this incredible Cactus tribute record. Cactus has just been with one of the fundamental bands in the early 70s that really influenced just about every band that came after it. He's got unbelievable musicians on this album. It's got Warren Hayes, got Joe Bonamassa, has Billy Sheehan, Steve Stevens, just an incredible collection of bass players and singers and guitar players. And of course, Carmine's drumming is common throughout this release. It is out now. It's on Cleopatra Records. And is it on vinyl, by the way, or is it
Oh
just?
yeah, it's on vinyl. It's Temple of Blues on vinyl. It's got, I believe it's red vinyls. Beautiful, beautiful packaging. And like I said, I didn't expect it to do so well because I've done so many records, as you know, today. You do a new record, nobody hears it.
Well, that tends to be an issue, although vinyl sells very well these days. Although you may be surprised to know that 50% of the people that buy vinyl do not own record players. Do you know that?
I didn't know that, but really the vinyl sells well, but it doesn't sell like vinyl. Like the vinyls on your wall, nobody gets those anymore.
No,
I
they
got a
don't.
bunch of them, nobody gets those anymore. I don't know what they get, but they don't get that.
No, they don't get that.
And
No.
that was like, when you had a wall full of vinyl, you knew you were successful, Today, they don't have anything like that. I don't know, what do you get? As I say, I tell everybody, like Trump says, buy, buy, buy. Drill. He says, drill, drill, drill. I say, buy, buy, buy. You can't sign a Spotify when you go to a gig.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
sign a
You can't
vinyl.
give a download as a gift either. You can't give a stream as a
No,
gift.
no,
You
that's-
need to
that's
give
bad.
something, tangible. Well,
Yeah.
this tribute record, and there are a bunch of tribute records out, but this one particularly is great, and it's being done by great musicians who absolutely love the band. Are there plans? Tell me about touring plans now.
Well,
And what are you
we
calling
just
the
did,
band?
yeah, we just did 5 gigs, and on one track there, Can't Judge a Book is a new band minus the singer. The singer we had for a couple of years, he went on to do a lot of stuff. So he couldn't do these gigs we had booked. So I said, well, you know, I don't want to cancel the gigs, especially because the album's out. So we got another guy from Long Island, this guy named Ed Terry. I don't know if you know him, but he is a great singer. He can sing anything. This guy, he plays harmonica. He looks good. I found him. He was doing a Led Zeppelin tribute band in Florida. He lives in Florida and lives in Long Island. So I said, you know what, I'd love to try out in Cactus. So we did 3 gigs about 2 weeks ago, and it was a Fog Hat, 2 of them, and 1 of them on our own. And all 3 of them were great, and people were raving about the band. And then we just finished, we did the Iridium, and we did another thing upstate New York. And people were just going berserk. You know, it was like, we ran out of songs upstate New York. We didn't know any more songs. I said, if that happens again, let's do Hot Legs. You know, everybody knows Hot Legs, and you know, I was involved in that. So, yeah, but it's
You
great.
know,
And, you know, since I'm the only, you know, and when you talk about like the album, as you know, once you lose a drummer, he's not on a record. The drummer's the whole feel of a record, you know. If you get a different drummer, the record feels differently. So the fact that I was on the whole record with the feel of all the original songs, it was easy to put people on it, and the material speaks for itself. I mean, any good musicians playing those songs with me on drums is gonna rock, because the material rock. I mean, can you visualize like Parchment Farm with Karen Carpenter playing drums? You know?
yeah, that would be a bit of a stretch. Well, you made a great record, and everyone's really proud of it. I'm sure you're particularly proud of it. And
Yep.
I'm really glad to have you on. Are you doing any more? I know that I was on your podcast several years ago.
Yes. Yeah.
Are you
No,
still
we're not
doing it?
doing them because we did that for when COVID was happening. This agent that was booking some of these shows, I do these Tonight's the Night Rod shows. You know, they're like, because I never get to play those songs. You know, I mean, I wasn't heavily involved in Do You Think I'm Sexy, Hot Legs, Young Turks, Passion. We did You Keep Me Hanging On with Rod. I was involved in People Get Ready. I played Maggie May so many times, and you know, and just all those songs. So I went to see Rod one time, and I said, man, I never get to play these songs. I did it 12 years ago. I had a Rod show that did okay. I had guys who played with Rod. But then it got too expensive to fly somebody in to do a rehearsal, like $5,000 every time we wanted to rehearse something. So I let it go. But after seeing Rod 2 years ago, and 12 songs, 8 of them were the ones I was involved in, I said, I want to do these songs again. So I put one together. It didn't work out. And then I heard about this guy that was doing Rod, from the sax player that was Rod 14 years, this chick named Katja. And he said, this guy's really good. So I went up to see him when he was in Florida. And I just went out on the stage and played 5 songs with no rehearsal with him. And the audience went crazy. And he said, man, we should partner up on this. I said, yeah, we should. So we have been, and we changed it now to a much more elaborate show. And me and her are featured on it. And we're playing in New Jersey on the 6th. I'm flying up to do that one gig. And
Where's that?
Down in Monroe. Is it Monroe, New Jersey, at the Regency Theater at the Monroe Golf Club.
Okay.
And this guy's been selling out all over the place. And I saw him, there was 1,000 people when I saw him. You know, so we're building that up too. You know, so I do Cactus, do Fudge, and I do the Rod stuff. I'm having fun.
So where do people find you? Where do people stay in touch, find you, get information updated as to where you are and
Well,
what the album's
basically
doing?
on my website, carmineappice.com or .net, you just click on tour, you know, tour dates. That shows up where I'm playing. And yeah, I got the Carmine Appice official on Facebook and, you know, Instagram, all that. I mean, I gotta admit, I'm not like on it every day, you know. because I find there's something that's really dumb. You know, you put some on there. Hey, I'm at the
I'm shopping
Iridium.
today at 7-Eleven, you know?
Yeah, no. I put on there. I'm at the Iridium, and I get
Okay.
5 comments, and then I put it up. I just decided to stop dyeing my hair. So what do you think? You get 1,200 comments.
Yeah.
You know, anything people go, put it up on your Facebook. I go, it doesn't matter. My people don't care about, that, they want to know, what kind of car I'm driving. They want to know, oh, I got a new dog, or, that's what they want to know. I said, I'm not really into that. I mean, I put, the biggest thing I've ever done on there, I put a picture of me and Nico McBain with our 2 Jaguars up there. I got 120,000 views, right? And
Yeah.
I don't know, 3,000 comments, something like that. Ridiculous.
Carmine, one last question before I let you go, and I appreciate the time you spent on this, and I really do love this record. I was looking through the listing of all the musicians that have been in and out of Cactus,
Yeah.
like the huge list. The last name I saw is a name of a kid I used to play guitar with in Central Park back in the 60s, and his name was Ricky Ramirez.
Yes.
Tell me, I have not seen that name since 1971, 72.
Yeah. Ricky's gone
what
now.
happened?
Ricky passed away. He used to
Okay.
live in LA. He got into a lamp business where he had all kinds of wild lamps. But he played with Cactus for a minute because, was it Cactus he played, or was, I think McCarty left, right? He was playing with Mark Stein in a Boomerang, right? And McCarty, I think, left, and we didn't get the new guy in yet. So we needed somebody to play with us, and we got Ricky.
Well, I remember going with Ricky to Ongano's one night. Ricky had a black custom Les Paul, and I think Ongano's with Fat Mattress was playing with Noel Redding. And he
Right.
said to me, we were hanging out at the fountain in Central Park, and he said, I'm going to Ongano's tonight because I'm trading guitars with Noel Redding, because Noel Redding was the guitar player in Fat Mattress,
Yes,
not the
yes,
bass player in Fat
yes,
Mattress.
yes.
And I remember walking Ricky backstage with Noel as they traded guitars. And that was my last memory
Wow.
of Ricky. And one last thing too, Jim McCarty, you're right about the American Jeff Beck. He is one of the most extraordinary, inventive guitar players, never got his due the way he should
No,
have. The
never
guy's
did.
absolutely freaking brilliant. And I do believe I saw you guys play for a PRS NAMM show. Am I correct in this? Or there
It might have
was
been, yeah, it might have been, yeah.
about maybe 7-8 years ago. Paul Reed
Yeah.
Smith produced a show with you guys. It was a reunion. I think, was it a cat? Because I believe Tim was playing bass.
Yeah.
And I
We
believe
had
Jim,
guy, Jimmy Coon sang probably.
yeah, and McCarty was playing guitar, and I was standing right by him on stage, and me and Mendoza went into the dressing room, had a long talk with him, and I always thought he was one of the greatest guitar
agree.
players, and he truly is the American Jeff Beck.
I agree. When we got back together, I mean, we were there for a while. We went to Japan, we went to Europe, we went to South America, and we went all over with that band, which we never did before. We did to Europe. We went to Europe. That was it. England, the normal stuff, Germany. But lately, last 10 years, we went to Sweden and Finland, and they actually called us up to do another festival in Finland, which we headlined. We did 6,000-7,000 people there. But for me, I have some health things that go on that I don't want to travel to Europe or anywhere far away from America. Because I had one with my brother and I almost died from it. So I said, you know what? I'm done doing that. I'm staying in America, and that's it.
Well, I think
So,
to the people who are listening to this podcast, you should try to get to a gig. See Carmine play, see the bands play. He always has the best musicians with him. He has a great record. It's the Cactus album. And the album is called Temple of Blues. And it is a tribute to one of the greatest American heavy bands that has ever been out. Twisted used to
thank
cover
you.
this.
I know Twisted Sister really was into Cactus because you're a Long Island band.
Long Island band.
That's why it's called Influences and Friends, because a lot of friends I thought that weren't into Cactus, like Steve Stevens. I called him And I said, I want you to do this thing, one of my friends, and I called influence a friend. He goes, man, I'm from Brooklyn. Of course, Cactus was an influence.
Yeah, well, the heavy
He said, I
sided
love
twisted,
Cactus,
the heavy sided twisted came out of this.
Yeah.
That's exactly what that did, which is why we used to cover Long Tall Sally just the way Cactus does it on this new
Right.
CD on Cleopatra Records. Get it? It's on vinyl. It's
And you see who's singing on that one?
everywhere. Sorry.
You see who's singing on Long Tall Sally? Mark Stein.
Yeah, Mark Stein. I was
Yeah.
like, whoa, whoa.
He said to me, I don't think I could sing that. I said, come over to my house. He lives in Florida. I said, come here, let's do it. We did it, and he sang 2 takes. He did it. It was done.
Well, he did a great job. Thank you so much.
Thank
Carmine,
you,
for
man.
being
Good
on
to
the
see you
show.
again.